Welcome, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Please join me for the pledge for our March 17th, 2022 planning board meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The governor extended the law one more month, so I'll say that tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, which suspends certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law to allow municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the law, the public has been provided with the ability to view and participate in tonight's meeting by computer, smartphone, or telephone, and to view the meeting on the usual cable television channels. The recording of the meeting will be posted to the town website, and a written transcript of the meeting will be prepared and provided at a later date. All board members are present for a quorum, and I've confirmed with the secretary that this meeting is duly noticed and fulfilled our legal notice requirements by posting a copy of the notice on the meeting on the town's webpage and on the town's bulletin board. And we've emailed a copy of the notice to the media, and we have confirmation that the legal notices for the public hearings tonight have been properly published. Thank you. First up is 8 Tucker Drive. Who's on the Zoom
Good
call?
evening. Ken Casamento from LRC.
Hey, Ken.
How are you? Good. Do you want us to do a presentation, Mr. Chairman, a little bit about where we're at?
Yeah, a little bit of where you're at this point, and what's
Sure.
because you made some changes to the plan.
Yeah, we're responding to the comments last month and resubmitted and got through most of the comments. We're working with the DEC on getting the approvals from them to provide the board so we can use the site for this project. One of the things, though, that we are looking to do is, as we met on site with Andy and Carol, work on the culvert repair, as you know. So one of the requests we had is to remove, and I'm going to share my screen here if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
With me. There we go. So as you know, it's 11.5 acres. We're going through a zone change to IH. The property location is where there. We've added asphalt in for the truck turnaround and one parking space. One of the questions came up, proximity to the rail trail. At its nearest point of where we're thinking is about 144 feet out to about 256, and down on the southern end is about 161. The area is out of the floodplain, as we said, and out of any of the protected areas. This is the stream crossing plan we did provide. It was part of the original submission. It wasn't in the last one, but we have included it. We've added Andy's comments to it. So we've modified that. But we are asking for permission prior to our final approvals, to cut these trees in here to allow us to continue that work as soon as possible, and not for the potential for bats, so we can cut them during the regulatory period where we're allowed to cut them, which is now to the end of the month. So that's really where we're at.
All right, let's go to Kristen.
All right, thanks, Ken, for the overview. So the applicant is back on for seeker review. Well, firstly, a public hearing, seeker review, recommendation to the town board for zoning district change, site plan review, and an aquatic resources protection permit review. As Ken stated, we had anticipated sort of an interim submission with this month's review. However, the applicant did actually provide a full response to comments. So the application was circulated and comments from various departments were once again provided. And I'll leave the conversation about that was had on site with the applicant between Andy and Carol to be discussed by Andy and Carol. But ultimately, without the DEC confirmation, we can't advise that the board act on seeker this evening. So we're recommending that the board have a discussion about the potential and the emergency situation that we're in regarding the culvert repair, to allow the applicant to fell the handful of trees that are in this area in order to move ahead with said culvert repair. And with that, I would just turn it over to Andy and Carol to discuss the nature of the improvements that have been now proposed regarding the site being located without, outside of the floodplain and some of those protection measures that are now included in the plan.
Okay, thanks, Kristen. Andy, what say you?
Sure. We met on site with Ken. Carol and I had some concerns, particularly with the long-term erosion control measures for the site and keeping any materials that would be stockpiled on the site out of the floodplain. The plans that they provided address those concerns as far as installing fence line along the existing floodway, so that'll keep everything out of it. As far as erosion controls, we've asked for a berm. They've provided a plan to provide that type of a control to keep the runoff from the site and the erosion, the sediment that could result from the materials from entering the stream. So as far as that part of it, we're pretty satisfied, but we do need guidance from the DEC before we make any recommendations to approve as far as the use of the site. But the culvert really should still be repaired as soon as possible. In the fall, there was some flooding that resulted upstream because of the constriction that was resulting from that culvert. The town highway department did go in and make some improvements to help relieve some of that flooding, but the culvert itself has fallen apart. It's pretty obvious that it needs to be repaired and could collapse, which would just put us right back in the situation worse than what it was before, if that did collapse, because the water would end up going over the berm and causing a pretty significant erosion. So if I would recommend allowing them to remove those trees and get that culvert replaced sooner rather than later, if possible.
All right, thanks, Andy. Yeah, the spring range will be coming soon enough. Carol, you have some additional
I'll
comments?
just make this short. I know we have a long agenda. Andy and I have discussed this before. We met in the field, and they have provided everything that we have requested with regard to erosion control. I have no issues with them taking down the trees prior to the 31st, just to get that work started, because it is critical as the road continues to collapse. And they took care of the fence issue as well. So we'll just continue to speak with the applicant, but I'm okay with everything at this point.
All right, sounds good. Thanks. This is on for public hearing, so I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone in the audience tonight wish to comment on 8 Tucker Drive plan?
If you're on the Zoom with us, you can raise your hand in Zoom or just unmute yourself and speak up. If you're on a phone, you would use *6 to unmute.
And there'll be another opportunity since we're adjourning. So seeing none, I move we adjourn the public hearing to April 21st, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, let's go around the board for comments and then we'll go on from there. Peter?
It would appear to be to everyone's benefit that they go ahead and make the culvert repair. And it's the engineer has recommended that they make the culvert repair. We don't have any language. Do we have something?
I do.
You have something?
Yeah, got something up.
Okay.
We'll see if Lisa can chime in if she has any.
No.
I mean, Jim can chime in if we say something wrong.
Yeah. Has our attorney read the the agreement?
I didn't read it, Peter, but I did look at the seeker regs and talked to Kristen. And essentially, if the board is factually comfortable that this is an emergency, something that needs to be done now, and that the work is defined, to deal with the emergency, separate from, the broader development proposal, that under none other than 6 NYCRR 617.5C42, you could find that it's an emergency and allow them to proceed in advance of seeker.
Okay, is that in the language that we have found that it's an emergency?
I use the same language as another one, so.
Yeah, it doesn't say emergency.
Okay, then include the words, the board finds that it is an emergency, and so on and so forth, so that there's no mistake.
You say prior to. Prior to
Yeah, it says prior
That's right.
to,
Also say secret.
yeah.
Prior to secret and approved site. All right.
Yeah, we're having
No, we'll speak into the microphones a little bit more carefully, and you're welcome.
All right, let's go to Ahmad.
No comments.
Rocco,
No, I agree we should be doing this.
Steve,
No comment.
and Nicole.
No.
Same here. I agree that needs to be done, and it looks like they've done a lot of work toward it. As you're looking forward, I know you got that pavement area going forward, and depending on what the DEC agreement works out to be, you make sure that, are you storing any equipment on site for moving piles around? Is that going to be an issue?
There would likely be at least one piece of equipment stored, and it would be kept on to that, the asphalt area there.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. And,
Yep.
and if there's any, and I'm sure you're working at it with the DEC, but if you're moving piles getting access to the piles that are not on the asphalt area, that got to be careful of, muddy situation, wind up digging up some of the underlying stuff, depending on how much topsoil there is. So
Agreed.
just something to keep in mind.
Can I ask a quick question? Ken, this is Mike. Just a quick question. Is the applicant committed to doing the culvert repair right away? I mean, assuming that the board is okay with the tree removal and authorizing this, is this something that we're going to see get done, in the next few weeks?
As soon as, this is Kelly Leibold with KRC, as soon as we can get the available product, we have to order all of the pipe. So as soon as we can get the pipe on site, then we can commence that work. And the critical part, Mike, is getting those trees down before the end of the month. And then now with this approval, we can go ahead and order the materials that we need.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Kelly.
And just in response to what the chairman had asked, we are working actively with New York State DEC back and forth. And so Andy Learn and Ken Casamento and DEC are communicating almost daily at this point, trying to get a resolution on just the final cap or material that will be placed underneath the bulk aggregate materials.
As a demarcation layer.
Yep. Okay. That'll be great. And maybe you can, hopefully before the April meeting.
I would just add that the timing of the culvert repair is pretty highly dependent on the weather. We're looking for a clear time frame of no rain and hopefully relatively low flow to get that work done. So hopefully sooner rather than later, but it's going to be pretty highly dependent on that.
Yep.
So as we noted on our plans, just like you said, Andy, once we get the material available, we'll communicate with your office and make a determination with you and Carol as to the proper time to do it based off of future weather.
I move the planning board approve site tree felling activity consistent with approved bat mitigation prior to a seeker approval and site plan approval, expressively subject to the following: Tree felling activity may commence prior to March 31st, 2022, and thereafter is restricted between March 31st and October 1st in accordance with New York State DEC guidance. Prior to the chairman's signature of an approved site plan, site clearing activity is restricted to tree felling only. Such activity shall not include relocation or removal of trees or brush, the use of heavy equipment, or any ground disturbance. Such tree felling activity shall be restricted to the project area as shown on site plan SP1 dated 1/24/2022.
Sounds,
Did you pull that from another application?
have.
Okay, so we'll just correct the sheet reference
I did,
to,
I did.
okay, specific to the culvert repair and all that.
That's the
Okay,
Well, that's my next motion.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a different one.
Yeah. that's my
Does that sound right, Jim? I want to add.
Yeah, I assume that the trees that are being removed are trees that need to be removed as part of this culvert repair, and taken together, they are the emergency package. And
So
that's
you might
what
wanna
you're.
Correct.
And allow that some trees to be removed if they're part of the culvert. And the other trees can just be fell.
The only trees to be removed are the trees that are in the way for the repair for the culvert. So those are the only trees that have to be removed.
Perfect.
For the project as a whole.
And accordingly, the root will be removed. So if this happens before the 31st or even after before the 31st, they can remove the roots if it's part of this repair project.
Okay, so
That's
modify it to not just fall in place with.
right. The
Okay.
felling is because of the deadline, and we're getting rid of this deadline completely for this project.
Okay.
And the felling is necessary to take care of the emergency. I think that's what Kelly said.
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
Not just felling, as we had said, we also want to say, and removal.
Right. And the sheet should be the CR1 plan, because that's the culvert repair plan.
Okay.
I think the cleanest way to do it is to refer all the improvements that we're proposing, which, include the felling of the trees, are on the culvert repair plan, which is the CR1. So that includes, the removal of the trees, the felling of them, the removal of them, and the culvert repair.
Thank you, Kelly. I was just gonna jump in and say that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I had CR1 for culvert repair. I was looking at the site plan one
Okay.
for.
Do you want me to scratch that easement altogether?
We didn't get a second on it, right?
No,
So,
we did
okay.
not.
Okay. So then I won't add this. And do you want me to just add this in? and
Yeah,
not
just go
even
ahead
add
for,
that as a
go
separate
ahead,
motion?
go ahead for one, as
Okay.
one motion then.
Okay, so then I move the planning board approve site tree felling activity and culvert repair activity prior to seeker approval and site plan approval, subject to the following. The tree felling activity may commence prior to March 31st, 2022, and be removed in accordance with culvert plan repair CR1 dated 1/24,
Nope.
1,
2/25/22.
sorry, 2/25/22, and in coordination with town planning consultants and staff. Does that sound better to?
You have to include, we're taking this action consequent to the recommendation of the town engineer that an emergency situation exists on site.
Right,
Okay, add that to.
Yes.
Add that to the motion.
Okay.
Just as-
and that this is an emergency situation.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more.
One more. I move the planning board defer further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to 1 through 12.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thanks, guys. Good luck with the culvert repair and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Jim. All right. Since the governor has extended order, I just want to clarify the board members that are in attendance tonight. are Peter, Nicole, Rocco, Stephen, and Ahmad filling in, as well as myself. One other alternate, and 2 other members are not able to attend tonight. So we have a quorum of 6. Next up is McDonald's, 2585 South Road.
Good evening. For the applicant, Matthew Ingber from the law firm of Brown, Altman, and DeLeo, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301 West, Melville, New York, 11747. I'm here for this evening for McDonald's site plan application to develop a new McDonald's restaurant at the Hudson Plaza Shopping Center located at 2585 South Road. With me tonight are the following experts who are all here to answer any questions that you may have. There's Alex LeMay, PE from Bowler, the project civil engineer, Paul Going, PE from Atlantic Traffic, the project traffic engineer, and Patrick Blees from Core States Group, the project architect. Just as a brief recap from the last planning board meeting held on January 20th, we note the following updates. On March 14th of this year, the ZBA granted McDonald's variance application for the number and location of parking stalls, for the total impervious coverage, and for the wall signs on the restaurant. And we're scheduled to go back in front of the ZBA on April 11th, only for the proposed monument sign. In respect to the instant application, on February 17th of this year, the applicant submitted revised plans and an updated traffic impact analysis to address the town's comments. And as could be more fully explained by Paul Going, the traffic engineer, on March 11th, the New York State Department of Transportation issued a conceptual approval for this project. In addition, an application has been submitted to the Department of Health and comments were recently issued. In addition, in terms of a stormwater maintenance agreement, our office, in addition to the applicant and the town attorney, we have been discussing the scope of the agreement, and we anticipate that we will soon be able to submit an executed agreement as it relates to McDonald's leased area. And then finally, on just this Monday, our office received the latest review letters, all dated as of March of this year. And after discussing the comments with our project engineers, all comments and town issues can be addressed as a condition of a site plan approval. So with that, I'd like to open it up to the board with any questions that you may have. I know we've discussed this application on numerous occasions.
All right, thanks. You've been here a few times already. Kristen?
Thank you to the applicant for the overview. The application is on this evening for a public hearing. Staff is recommending that the board open the public hearing, hear any comment, discuss comment, close the public hearing, adopt a resolution to grant conditional site plan approval, and conduct architectural review. As was noted, the applicant is going back to the ZBA. That condition is inherently included in your list of conditions for site plan approval. And will have to be worked out with the ZBA or other. And as was also noted, the applicant is still working with DOT and will receive the correct permit. I won't steal Mark's thunder. He can speak to any outstanding comments. And also the applicant is working with Department of Health. So, and I've actually been included on a lot of that correspondence. And, you know, that's not atypical for the board to go forth with a conditional site plan approval at this point.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. Let's see what we got from engineering. For any last comments, Andy?
I would agree that most of the comments that remain are technical in nature, wouldn't be a problem to be conditions of approval. We got some pretty, the health department had some questions that need to be taken care of. I don't think it's going to be a problem to be a condition. Most of their questions had to do with the existing site what they're tying into, the pump station that they're tying into. They didn't have any information on that. So that may be some legwork for them, but I think it would be okay to be a condition.
Okay, great. And Mark, do you have any last traffic issues?
Yeah, so Mark Petro from JMC, with the town's traffic consultant. We reviewed the applicant's recent submission, and they provided the requested materials, and we have no comments further on the materials. They addressed our comments. I will make note that the DOT did provide that email on March 11th. They are requesting the applicant to rebuild the existing curb ramps at the entrance drive to the plaza just south of the project site to meet ADA standards, current ADA standards.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Sound for public hearing. So I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is there anyone in the audience wish to comment on the McDonald's site plan? Scroll through the Zoom attendees.
I'm not seeing anyone on Zoom that's trying to get our attention. So,
No one waving. Okay. I move that the planning board close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Right, go around for comments. Peter?
I don't have any comments. The applicant has been very responsive. Just about everything we've asked them, any concerns that we've had, I think they've responded to, and they're ready to move forward.
Sounds good. Nicole?
Yes, I don't have any comments either.
Rocco?
No more comments. Thank you.
Ahmad?
Same. No
And
comment.
Steve?
No comment.
All right, I'll fall into the same bucket. We've had lots of comments over the course of the year, and you've been very responsive, as Peter has said, so that's great. So I think we're ready to move forward.
I move that the planning board approve site plan approval for McDonald's 2585 South Road site plan subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness inclusive of but not limited to the following 1 through 10.
Second.
Moved and seconded to make additional. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And can you share some architectural for architectural review?
Who has architectural?
I can bring it up.
Yep. Now, you've made some modifications as we have gone through the process, but now we have to do our final review of the architecture.
Yes. I will bring up what I have, which is this architectural plan here. And just to note for the board, this has been presented at previous hearing. This is an iteration of the elevation plans that shows 4 signs. Note that this will be updated to comply with the request of the zoning board and Dutchess County. I will just highlight the signs here. Will remain. The rear elevation, this sign will go away. And this McDonald's logo sign that's on the non-drive-through side that faces Route 9, let me get my arrow pointing the right way, will end up on the side, on the actual drive-through side of the building, which faces into the shopping center. And that was at the request of Dutchess County and agreed to with the zoning board. So those 3 signs, that would be a change you would see from an architectural perspective.
Okay. And what are the materials? It's like an ephes or brick, stone, what? Remind us.
It's a combination. This is Patrick Blease, the architect of record. The combination materials, it's a series of things. It's horizontal hardy board siding, cement board siding.
Okay.
It is, can you zoom in a little, just a touch on the materials legend? There you go. The vertical brown pieces are a wood tone aluminum material. The roof is a standing seam metal. The panels above the solid gray panels, right where his Alex's mouse is right now. I believe that is what we would refer to as ACM panels. They're a metal composite material.
Okay.
Those are the primary materials that we're dealing with. Then there's metal awnings or canopies that are different colors depending on where they are in the building. The white ones and the gray ones.
And is there HVAC? Is parapet or whatever high enough to hide HVAC? That's a
yes,
key thing in our town. All right. Any comments from board members on the architecture? Good. Yes.
I've got one question only. This seems to be a new color scheme for McDonald's. Is this what they're going to be doing going forward? I mean, I like it. I was just curious.
There are several color schemes that McDonald's is doing, but this is one of their, if you will, their standard material palettes.
Okay, because I really haven't seen any of these. That's why, at least driving up and down the eastern seaboard, because I go into North Carolina a lot because I have a family there. So I was only curious.
Yeah, Rocco, I think it was Bill Weisgerber that actually had, when we initially saw the changed rendering, that this was like the second proposal with this design concept or styling that they were going with.
The architectural feature at the corner, this is, I think, the second or third McDonald's to have this. Other than that, this kind of corner feature, though, from an aesthetic perspective for McDonald's, this is leaning towards their current standard that they're starting to implement across the nation. I think the one that was recently done near Marist College would be similar to this, at least in the color scheme, kind of the architecture, minus this kind of roof element here.
Okay, does that have hardy board also? Because usually the ones I've seen are brick. But that's enough from me. I was just curious more.
Anyone else? Comments on that? In that case, I move we accept architecture as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. You're off and running.
Okay. Thank you.
On the conditions. Next up is Guardian Self-Storage on Love Road.
Good afternoon, everybody. Frank Riddle, project manager for Guardian Self-Storage.
Frank.
I didn't see the corned beef and cabbage buffet. Did I get here too late?
A little bit late.
Okay. I know this is on for a public hearing, so I'll give a brief overview of the project and tell you where we are and what we're up to. It's approximately 4.5 acre site. We own on both sides of Love Road. Many years ago, this site was accepted into the New York State DEC Brownfield program. Over several years, we did a great deal of remediation, removing storage tanks from the ground, removing contaminated soil, putting soil cover in, to the extent that we received a certificate of completion from the DEC, giving us the go-ahead to develop the site. When we did the remediation, we had a choice to make. We could either do a little remediation and we could only develop commercially, or you could do a great extensive remediation, which would allow for residential to be built on the property. We chose to do the extra remediation, and we received approval for restricted residential use, which means we did over and above what the commercial would require for the FBC.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, what we're proposing is a 71,200 square foot self-storage building. It'll be climate controlled, 3 stories with a basement. Since our last appearance before you, we made some headway on a lot of the town comments. We still have a ways to go. There's a lot of moving parts with this project. not only are we responding to the town's comments, but we're also working with the DEC because in order to develop the property, they have to approve everything that you're going to approve.
Mhm.
The DOT is also involved because there'll be some connecting to state stormwater management. We had a site visit this week, as a matter of fact, with the sewer department, because we have to try to figure out how we're going to hook up the sewer to existing sewer service. Water connections, we're working with the water department as well. Let's see. We have a ways to go. There's a lot of moving parts to this puzzle,
Yeah.
but we're going to get there. It's going to take us a little while because we have to coordinate many different interest agencies, but we're going to do a good job. And eventually, given approval, the site will look something like this. That's our goal. Also, once I get to the stage where this board is willing to issue a neg deck, I've got to go to the ZBA because we're going to require some variances. We need some variances for front yard setbacks, side yard setback, and that's about it.
Close to 44.
Yes, it is. Yep, that's the side yard.
Great. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Kristen?
All right. Thank you for the thorough overview. It makes my job a lot easier. It's on for public hearing, seeker review for a type 1 action, special use permit review, site plan review, floodplain development permit review, and architectural review. There were a couple of seeker related items where staff is looking for some additional information or consultation. I will point out that the applicant did provide a no impact letter from SHPO dated November 22nd, 2021. So the town now has that as part of the project record. Thus far, the application appears to adhere to the special use permit requirements as prescribed by the zoning. And there are, still a number of site plan review comments that are outstanding. A number of them have been addressed or in the process of being cleaned up. Most notably, I just wanted to point out for the board, and perhaps you might have an update about this. There appeared to be a minor discrepancy, which could be a big discrepancy as to that new roadway that's coming off of Love Road to access the one side of the building. On the one set of plans, it noted it as an access road, a permanent road, and on the other set of plans, it actually identified it as a construction road. So we weren't sure if it was temporary or meant to be permanent.
No.
Where you are proposing parking over there, so I would assume, but
Yeah, I think the architect was working differently than our engineer.
yes, yeah. And it could just be
the
turning a
construction
layer off.
entrance is really
Yeah.
during the course of construction, and then it's going to turn into a permanent driveway.
Sure, yeah, just wanted the clarification. Of course, you're proposing parking there, so again, we
Yes.
assume, but
Yeah. I also along that line too, we are not going to be having any outdoor storage here. There'll be no cars, RVs, boats, trailers, anything like that. We'll even be putting a note on the map to that extent.
Okay. That was a question.
so with that, I would, defer to Andy, and also Carol Knapp is on and took a look at the project as well.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. Go right to Andy.
Okay. Yeah, so we have several comments. The sewer connection was already mentioned. I think that's one that definitely needs to be resolved. I'm going to sound like a broken record as far as the cul-de-sac and the parking lot access. I think that, I see that snow storage is provided. We just need to make sure that the highway superintendent is comfortable with that arrangement and how that would work, because there's the potential for a large amount of snow to be piled up in front of the parking spaces for the project. We want to make sure that the town is comfortable. The town highway superintendent is comfortable with how that's going to work. The board also had some discussion last time about the parking spaces along Love Road. My notes said that we were looking for those parking spaces to be restriped. I'm not sure. I don't see that on the plans, but maybe the board wants to discuss that. Let's see.
If I might just jump into, I'd like to just point out that I did have a follow-up conversation with Mark Pfeiffer regarding this project as proposed. He did look at the most recent plan set, but I do think that it would be valuable for us to have just an offline conversation to work through some of those finer technical details about snow storage and maneuverability. And then perhaps we can have a discussion about the restriping.
Absolutely, Kristen. Sure.
Because the
Good idea.
the town highway department is currently maintaining that road,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, state highway,
Yeah.
town maintains it. Yeah, it's a
Did
good
we
idea,
ever-
Kristen. We will do that.
Did we ever figure out who owns the road?
State.
It's state.
So
owned.
the town is still under the impression that they own the road. We need to have another conversation offline. But it is absolutely maintained by the town highway department.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else, Andy?
No, that pretty much covers it.
All right. Carol, you took a look at this as well?
Yes. Basically, there's a little confusion regarding the NWI and the wetland mapping, but that's not significant. The habitat assessment reports provided are rather contradictory to what has been provided on the plans. We've made some comments on that. That's with regard to endangered turtles and bats. So we need to get a little clarification, a little consistency with that. And we understand that the DEC has review and approval jurisdiction regarding the contamination or the previous contamination, but we have not received anything regarding the SMP or the certificate of completion. And it's not posted on the DEC website. So if you have that and could provide that to the town for record, that would be great. And with regard to that is the issue of the monitoring wells that are still on site. We need to know how they are going to, if and how they're going to be disposed of, or will they continue to be monitoring? Again, that all relates to how the DEC is going to be handling this, but we need some information.
And Carol, I just wanted to point out, it was in a host of information as part of the applicant's first submission in December. But we'll make sure that you have a copy of the COC, but we did actually receive that. And Frank was good enough to forward that along again to me when I had questioned it after our meeting earlier this week.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thanks, Carol. Speaking of habitat for non-endangered species, there's still some cat condos on.
Oh,
On the side.
that's a good way to describe it. I mean, there's got to be 50 feral cats there. It's unbelievable. We'll probably have to get the SPCA involved at some point. We've known they've been there for years, but we didn't want to disturb anything.
Didn't know there's
Somebody
that,
feeds
didn't know
them.
there's that many.
Yeah, somebody feeds them. I don't know who. They must come and go in the darkness of night. I've never seen anybody there, but.
It seems like your remediation for residential occupancy worked.
All right. At this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is there anyone on the call on the Zoom meeting wish to comment on this application?
So once again, if you're on a phone, you can use *6 to unmute yourself, or on Zoom, just
When do you think you'll come
raise your
back?
hand.
You'll be back for April meeting or May? April,
I'll know better next week.
April submission.
When is the submission?
It's the
date for-
28th. So you would have
March
next,
28th?
yes, you would have next week, but it's still
We won't be ready. We'll probably have to do the May.
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 Okay.
I think we're all clear on the Zoom. So.
The next
All right.
submission, I'd like to have as much done as possible.
Yeah,
Rather, instead of wasting your time and
Yeah.
ours too.
Don't have to do it twice. All right. In that case, I move that the planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 19th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, we'll go around the board for additional comments on this. Nicole, start with you.
Sure. I have a question. Dutchess County Planning and Development had mentioned a possibly shift of the building to the northwest. Is that something, did you receive those comments? Was that something that you had possibly looked at?
We did, and it would create a problem, I think, with disturbing the additional, see, down here, I don't know if this is on.
It'll,
Yeah, it just takes a second. You gotta turn it on.
This way?
Yeah, northwest.
Okay. This is still an area of little contamination. It has cover, 2 feet of soil cover. We have to maintain that. And if we put in more into that, we're disturbing more of the contamination. We're trying to avoid that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is that true even if you just move northward, like not northwest, but just northward? I mean, is it, I guess I don't know
Yeah,
what.
and then it brings me closer to that pond.
Well, right, that pond, yeah. Okay.
It's a bit restrictive.
If we could have, we would, because then it would mitigate the side yard setback that we need.
Thank you.
All right, Rocco?
Yeah, one quick thing. How do we determine the height of the building? Because you got the front, which is from 44 will be the back. So it looks like it's more than 45 feet. And the front, well, the back, which from 44 would look like to the front, it says 44 feet. And I think there's some discussion regarding whether or not you need a variance from that. I mean, what is your position on that?
There was some discussion on that. My understanding of the code, and I defer to the architect to be more accurate, but I believe that it's an averaging of the heights that determines what the
Yeah.
actual height is.
But if you average it, wouldn't it be more than 45 feet since
So,
the front
I,
is about 55?
I don't have an exact answer for you, Rocco, unfortunately. Our zoning administrator actually asked the question for clarification in her comments. And I actually did get a call this afternoon from Maury, and we had a discussion. So we just want to, I think it could be handled in a simple 2-minute conversation between the zoning administrator and the applicant's architect.
I agree. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Rocco. Ahmad?
No comments.
And Steve?
No comment.
Peter?
Are there any roof mounted units?
There will be, what is not hidden by the parapet is going to be screened.
Okay. On your architect's rendering, there's a chain link fence that runs along Route 44.
The state put that there, yes.
Yeah, it's in pretty bad shape.
We've looked at that, and I think that we're going to have to make some improvements, but we've got to talk to, that's one of the things we have to talk to the DOT about.
Okay, I know it looks, I think there's a pretty good grade. Is there a pretty steep grade along
Yes,
there?
there is.
I'm just wondering, first I was thinking, I was going to suggest some plantings, but I don't know if you have enough soil there to plant.
Probably not. You're right. It's down in the hole. There's quite a drop right there. As soon as you get on the other side of the fence, there's not much there, and it shoots right down.
All right, but as long as you engage them to see if there's something.
Yeah, we've
I don't think
reached out to the DOT to try to set up a meeting in the next week or two.
it's a big investment on your part, and to have that chain link fence and that kind of repair in front of it, it's not going to really reflect well.
Yeah,
on your
the state
building.
hasn't done anything to maintain it since they put it up back in the 70s.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Your rendering showed it in much better shape than
It did, didn't it?
actually is. All right, and my comments, nothing additional, I don't think, because, restripe we were interested in doing. I think, did we have a trash enclosure discussion?
There isn't going to be one. We're strictly, people have to bring the garbage with them. We will just have a small, reliable canister for office garbage, but we don't put a dumpster out for people to put stuff in.
just to roll
Otherwise,
out.
we end up with getting couches in them. The general public's going to go by and throw stuff in, and we've just learned that it's better we ask our customers to bring the garbage with them.
Speaking of which, there's a mattress up there now. Last time I
That happens quite often up there. I know
Unfortunately.
Mark Pfeiffer's been pretty good about going up and getting rid of that once in a while, but people still do that.
It'll be great to have a new business and building there.
I think so, and I think it'll
won't
deter
look like
people
it.
going up there because
Right.
now they go up there at night in the dark and just
Yep.
dump anything they want on the ground.
Right. All right. Guess we're set.
I move the board for action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to the following 1 through 15.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for now. Good
Have a
luck.
good evening.
Working through everything. And happy St. Patrick's Day. All right. Vassar College Canyon Hall parking is up next. Who's on representing that?
Ken Casamento from LRC.
Hey, Ken.
How are you?
All right.
If I could, I'm going to share my screen here.
Go ahead.
So the project area is located up on the north end of campus, just behind the Kenyon building here, as located on the arrow. As you can see from the aerial, the area is been used for staging for the last years for construction projects. It's got a ton of millings down and it's been a parking lot area, a haphazard parking lot area for a number of years, but we're working to try to make it a more formal one so they can have it a little safer with striping and everything like that. These are just a couple of pictures of it. One of the important reasons I wanted to bring up this picture is we really worked originally to save this tree in the middle. And actually, thanks to Carol, we had a conversation when she went and looked at the project, and we brought out the tree arborist, and we determined that this tree really is split and rotted and holed, and a lot of work's going around it to protect it, that it really doesn't make sense to keep it in that thing. It's leaning up towards the building and has had been cleared over years. So we are going to request as part of this to take that tree down. But what was here was when we originally did the survey a couple of years ago, these trees here and this tree here don't exist at all anymore. They're not there at all. And then one of the other things that we found when we were there is we were working really hard, and I know Andy had a comment about this walk here because we were trying to avoid the impact of these pine trees that are here. But as you can see in the picture on the right, they started cutting these trees a few years ago and they never finished. So one of the things that we're going to request is to include that into this area and take those trees down so that we can make this walk a little gentler to get down to the lower area here. Overall, when we recreate the parking lot, we're at 42 spaces proposed. It's under an acre of total disturbance. The existing area is about 0.4 acres of hard surface. Our proposed area is 0.4 acres. It's a little more than that right now. We are looking to put some landscaping back in the corners, and we do have a rain garden down at the bottom. And based on some conversations, we'll probably end up changing the practice type to accommodate for the larger area. But nonetheless, it'll still be a stormwater treatment area down at the lower end. That's really the short of it. It's not a very big project or complicated one.
Yep. All right, thanks, Ken. Eric?
Thank you.
Sure. This new application is on for secret review, site plan review, and a public hearing. It's, let's see, for seeker, there were a couple of issues with the initial submittal with regard to species and historic, and the applicant provided supplemental responses, which I think take care of those issues, and you have that information in your packets. Basically, they are proposing trees and they are proposing protection measures for endangered bats. And the historic resources are not in the immediate vicinity, or the historic registered designated buildings are not in the vicinity. In the campus, the parking won't affect, proposed parking won't affect the campus potential eligibility. That said, staff are recommending, we've provided you with a resolution for a negative declaration. We feel it's ready if you're in agreement, and similarly for a site plan approval for the satellite parking. A couple of measures in it. One is that the site plan guidelines call for a 35-foot buffer as identified by the zoning administrator. It's at planning board's discretion to waive that. Staff is recommending, since it is adjacent to a residential use near the north property boundary along one part of it,
that that area be provided with additional landscaping sufficient for screening as an exchange for a partial waiver of that 35-foot buffer. And that's pretty much it. Oh, the staff is also comfortable if the board's in agreement with the proposal to fell a separate proposal to fell the proposed trees before the March 31st deadline. I guess I would ask Ken, you identified some additional trees to be removed. Your plan seemed to locate those outside of the proposed disturbance area. Do you want to identify any estimated, is the disturbance area going to change in any way that should be recorded in the board's action tonight if it proceeds?
Yes, actually, that's a great point. With that one area, when we establish it, when it goes bigger, it's less than 1/10 of an acre down in there. So if we move that to 0.75 acres, we would suffice the area to incorporate that into the project area.
I think that would
for
be
those few trees.
Okay, yeah.
And you could, yeah, and so you would then address that change and as a condition of approval if the board goes that way?
Correct. We would adjust it on the plans and note that clearer on the plans that would be in for signature.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Eric.
And I think Andy
Yep.
and Carol may have some comments as well.
Yep, Andy, you're
Sure. So as Ken alluded to, the area disturbance is less than an acre, so they do not require speedies permit coverage and a SWIP. So they are providing stormwater management practices anyway, which is a good thing. Carol probably has something to say about the proximity of the stream nearby, but they are also providing erosion and sediment control practices, which are important given that close proximity. I did have a few questions about how the water was getting to the practices, which is not really a terribly complicated thing to address. So that we'll need that, and then also had some questions about ADA slopes and access and where doorways were going to be located. So again, I think they can address those fairly easily. That's all I have.
Thanks, Andy. And Carol?
Hi, my video seems not to be working right now, but okay, I have no issues with them taking the trees down before the 31st. Not unhappy with the elimination of that single large centrally located tree. It is in rather poor shape. Thank you, Ken, for also commenting on the pine trees to the side that are limbed, topped, partially dismantled and taken down. So this will clean up that area a bit. And as well, just the whole parking lot area, it's rather disheveled back there. So this will clean up the project, especially given the requirement for some screening within that 35-foot buffer, in lieu of the 35-foot buffer. This will help screen it from the residential neighborhood to the back. And finally, with regard to the stream, yeah, the stream is down the bottom of that. There's a lot of disturbance in the back leading down to that wet meadow. But I think this site will be improved greatly by the rain garden and landscaping and some improvements, and we can continue to talk internally with Ken and Andy about any concerns there.
Great, thanks, Carol. At this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is there anyone wish to comment on this Vassar College application?
Anyone on the
Nobody.
Zoom?
Nobody's waving their hands.
No. No, unmuting? No.
Seeing none, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, let's go around for comments. Peter?
Just a couple of comments. One, that it is in an area that has a fairly high water table. And it's a fairly large impervious new surface that's being applied there. So our town engineer is telling us that the stormwater treatment application that they're suggesting will be sufficient to satisfy that water runoff.
Yes.
So yes or no?
Yes.
Okay,
I think,
thank
I
you.
mean, I can answer for Ken, but I mean, technically, I
Yes.
think it's considered an existing impervious surface right now anyway, given the
We did-
millions that are there.
And we did do soil tests out there and confirmed that groundwater was low enough and not even in the test so that we could provide a treatment practice there when there wasn't one before.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I have is the buffer that's being proposed. How do we know? I mean, we have no knowledge of what that buffer is going to be. And I think we should know what it is.
Should we ask, I mean, I would think we'd prefer evergreens. Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely evergreen, sure.
And
No
then-
deciduous trees.
Yeah. Ken, did you have any suggestions at this point?
Yeah, I completely agree. We do have on our plan now, I'm just pulling it up, the details, so I can either show it or just talk through it. Fraser firs, what we were proposing. So in the center portion.
What height are they?
So they're 7 to 8 feet.
Oh, okay, terrific. And how many feet apart are you planning to plant them?
They're usually installed about 5 to 6 feet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll
Yeah.
also just point out that as a condition of approval, one of the points was that it be shown on a plan subject to staff review and approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a key part of it, I think. Steve? Do you have anything?
There was some discussion, but EV charging stations part of the plans or not?
They are not in this area.
Any thought to conduit ahead of time, just in case for?
I think that if, based on the location of this site relative to power sources for what we would have and what would be available, they would opt to put them in a different location than right in the back behind the buildings. They would opt to put them in a more convenient location to the power supply systems rather than trying to get back into here, based on our discussions.
Okay, I know Vassar's working on a total plan.
Yes, they are working on a campus-wide proposal for that.
All right. And anything else, Steve?
No.
Ahmad?
No comments.
Rocco?
No comments.
Paul?
I had a quick question for you. I was just in that area the other day, taking a walk. And are you going to be putting some type of connection to some of those other paths that lead to like the middle of Vassar? Or is it just going to be parking lot and just a path to the building itself?
So let me pull this up again, if I can.
Sure.
So we are proposing just the connection to the front of Kenyon, which would then therefore connect to the rest of campus. And we are proposing a path in the back to the lower spot of Kenyon, which again would connect to the Windfimer area over there. So I'm trying to pull up the aerial. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that. I realized when I hit share, I only shared the one thing and not this here. So as you can see here, we're going to connect to this portion of the campus here, and then this portion of the campus here. So it will be connected on both sides in both available locations to the main corridor of campus and the rest of the campus walkway network.
Okay, great. Yeah, because that was one thing I did notice the other day when I was walking around Vassar is there's actually some pathways that kind of stop and then just become parking lots. So that'll be great if you can actually, have some paths so that people aren't actually walking in the middle of parking lots or in the middle of the road.
Yeah, let's
Right.
continue that sidewalk then.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
And
Thank you.
think I already covered most everything, except I had one, the screening to residential is a key thing, as Peter pointed out. I also had a question of the fence between that building and the cemetery, it's in disrepair in a few spots, and I don't know if that's Vassar owned or cemetery owned,
I do not know that answer, to be honest. I would have to do it. It looks like it's right on the property line, based off of our field survey, but I don't know if that means Vassar put it in or the cemetery put it in. We'd have to do some research on that to figure that out.
It's got barbed wire on top, but it's all just falling apart and rusting.
Yeah, I would tend to think, and just because of the nature of Vassar wouldn't be putting barbed wire on their particular fence, but that doesn't necessarily mean it isn't a historical thing from years past. So we'll do some research and take a look, but at this time, there was no plan to fix it or do that.
All right, I wanted you to take a look at that and see if it can be, if it's Vassar's. All right.
Mr. Chairman, just one more item I forgot to mention. There was one minor comment, but we suggested it be addressed before the board acted. Ken, there are some X's on the plan and some labels indicating another project area on the vicinity maps other than it behind Kenyon Hall. Could you just clarify that and lay that issue to rest one way or the other?
Yeah, yes, the X's, and I'm pulling it up now, so bear with me.
On the cover sheet, there's actually a separate, the vicinity map actually outlines a project area south of the cemetery along between College View Avenue and Kenyon Drive.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up so you can see it. So there was an area here that was originally talked about potentially doing something in here when we first started this a long time ago, but that area is not part of the project at all at this time, and it will be removed as part of the conditions of approval.
Thank you.
Good eyes, Eric. All right. Go ahead.
I move the planning board determine it is lead agency as the only involved agency identified for environmental review of this project as an unlisted action for seeker review, and determine that the Vassar College Kenyon Hall parking lot site plan will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for reasons set forth in seeker negative declaration for an unlisted action dated March 17th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded for seeker. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval for the Vassar College Kenyon Hall parking lot site plan, subject to the following: respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies. As every response is to be reviewed by the planning department has to adequate standing completeness inclusive of and not limited to 1 through 12.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board approve site tree felling activity consistent with approved bat mitigation prior to an approved site plan, especially subject to the following: tree felling activity may commence prior to March 31st, 2022, and thereafter is restricted between March 31st and October 1st in accordance with New York State DEC guidance. Prior to chairman's signature of an approved site plan, site clearing activity is restricted to tree felling only. Such activity shall not include relocation or removal of trees or brush, the use of heavy equipment, or any ground disturbance. Such tree felling activity shall be restricted to the project area as shown on demolition plan DM1 revised dated 2/22/22 as proposed by LRC Group. Correspondence regarding tree cutting restrictions dated 2/22/22.
Second.
Received 3/9/22.
Mr. Chairman, I would propose that the last item referring to DM1, since Ken proposed changes, he proposed tree cutting that is a little bit different than that. Ken, would you be able the next couple of days before cutting the trees to be able to just put that little additional area onto the DM1?
Yes, we will. We can get you a revised DM1.
So maybe if you just add to the end of that, to be updated per applicant discussion prior to any activity.
Okay, to be updated before
Prior to any tree cutting activity.
prior to any tree cutting activity.
Thank you.
And not to be picky about it, but just it's by March 31st, and then not to be from April 1st through. Don't use the March 31st for both beginning and end.
Thank you. Got it.
Second.
Moved and seconded for tree felling activity. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0 again. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's.
Thank you, you too.
Next up is the store space application. Who's here representing store space tonight?
Good evening. My name is Mike Ritchie from Costage Engineering, here representing Store Space. Here on the call with Store Space should be Sabrina Pernalette and Bob Rice. As well on the call is the project architect, Gretchen Elton. I'd just like to briefly go over where we are from where we were last time we were in front of you, which was the January meeting. We did receive comments from town staff and the county. We in turn responded to those comments, revised the plans, and resubmitted. Some of the items that we revised were based on comments we received from this board. For instance, there was a comment about the addition of a sidewalk along Violet Ave. We have added that sidewalk. We did receive an additional comment asking that we extend that to tie into the existing sidewalk a little bit to the south. And we are in agreement to do that. So that'll be shown on the next round of plans. Additionally, the board asked if there was any possibility to shift the building farther away from the rail trail. To the best of our ability, we've done that. It isn't a significant shift because it's kind of a tight site in terms of the triangular shape of it, but we have shifted it, I believe, 6 or 7 feet farther away from the rail trail. We have removed all disturbances within the city of Poughkeepsie property, with the exception of some items that the county asked us to remove, some fencing and some gravel and the like. We have revised some of our landscaping to bolster that up a little bit per comments that we received. And then additionally, one item that was brought to our attention this week was whether or not the billboard on Violet Ave can be removed. And Store Space looked into their legal team, and unfortunately at this point, they can't get out of the lease, so that billboard will have to remain, but they are amiable to doing whatever they can site-wise. I know they probably, within the lease, can't obscure the billboard, but anything they can do around it to make it nicer, they will try their best to do that. At this point, I'll introduce Gretchen, the project architect. One of the comments that we did receive was if some changes could be made to the building architecture. And Gretchen, if you're able, I'll let you speak to that.
Sure.
And I can pull up the screen. I believe I have that. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah. So in response to, I think, a comment from last time was to further add some additional architectural elements. So we've added some metal panels, perforated metal panels, in a geometric pattern on the front of the building. And then do you also have the elevations, just the flat?
I do.
That'd be great.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. Lose the resolution a little bit when I zoom out on those panels.
Yeah, that's fine. Really, I just wanted the rear elevation. So we've, to recognize the walking path that's on the backside of our facility, we've added just some green wall in the form of a trellis system that would allow vines to grow up it. We're showing that trellis system about 25 feet high, which is well within range of many varieties of species of plants. There is a photo that we've added on the elevations just to sort of show what that would look like once it's fully grown out. Depending on what type of plants are selected there, that may take between 2 and 5 years roughly to grow full height. And then that would stand off the facade of the building. So it would be sort of separate, and it would allow the plants to grow at their own sort of pace, I guess.
Great. Thanks, Gretchen.
Sure.
So with that, we'll open it up to any questions or comments the board or public may have.
All right, thanks. Kristen, this one's yours.
Yeah, thank you. So the application is on for a public hearing this evening. Seeker review for a type 1 action, special use permit review, site plan review, and architectural review. The applicant did respond to a number of the comments that we had provided at their last appearance. However, we are looking for some additional information in terms of cleaning up seeker. Right now, it does appear that the applicant is meeting special use permit review requirements as it relates to lighting and parking. Well, parking is going to be another conversation. But then there are a number of site plan related review items that I'm still looking to be cleaned up on the site. The applicant did point out that they are working with Department of Transportation as it relates to the proposed sidewalk. They will be required to adhere to any highway work permit requirements imposed by DOT, inclusive of curbing and curb ramps, and then of course those connections and future connections. So staff is recommending that the board open the public hearing, hear comment, and adjourn the public hearing, not close it, and defer action with comments, allowing the applicant to go back and have another look at the plan set and come back with something a little bit more complete. So just to reiterate, the parking counts have been reduced substantially. The property, the project or proposal originally included the building lying in 3 parcels, one of which is the city of Poughkeepsie. That building now wholly and the parking wholly reside within the town of Poughkeepsie limits. Parking has been reduced. There's a requirement of something on the order of 180 parking spaces. They are now only proposing 25 parking spaces. There will only be one ingress egress to and from the site, which again would have to be reviewed and approved, at least to some form of a conceptual approval by DOT. The applicant has also included a landscaping plan, a lighting plan, and will continue to work with staff and agencies.
Great, thanks,
And
Kristen.
I would just also like to point out that Andy Learn took a hard look at this as well. I know there were some comments and questions about the site and testing and what might have been done. So I think the applicant might be prepared to answer some of those questions.
Yep. All right.
I think it's also worth pointing out too, because this was a lot of discussion at the prior meeting, the applicant should hear from the board at this point about architectural elements and features. This would be the time to be making those comments. That's it.
Okay. Let's go to Andy.
Sure. As is typical, the health department is, well, not typical, but this health department will have to weigh in on this. They are proposing a small pump station to make their sewer connection. Don't anticipate that being a huge problem, but we'll need to see that before final approval. Had some comments about the line crossing 9G that passes through the site. They've made some modifications based on a request, which is a good thing. Just a few more tweaks to that, and I would like to see some correspondence from the DOT or an indication, at least as far as ownership. Probably the need for an easement through the site for the line that's carrying water under the road. Let's see. We had many questions about stormwater, that most of which have been addressed. Just a few remaining that I think can be resolved fairly quickly. We did have some questions about soil testing. I'm not sure. Actually, they may not may not be required, but if we decide that they are, we coordinate. Our office will just have to be around to witness those tests. And then finally, I did want the fire department to weigh in on access to the site and their ability to get in and then turn around and get back out again. I think currently the plan was to use the T intersection as a turnaround. We just want to make sure that they don't require anything more than that. So that pretty much covers my comments.
All right, thanks, Andy.
Sure.
Let's see. Carol, you still on that for any?
There I am. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think you had looked at.
I did take a look at this. Really not many comments. A couple of large branches are overhanging the probably city or town property along the rail trail that are overhanging the fence. That's something that's going to have to be addressed at some point in time. Note should be included about no chemical insecticide should be used in the detention basin. With regard to the large area of lawn surrounding the entire building and actually the whole site, just recommended that since due to the previous use, we're going to need some ripping of the compacted soils in order to get some good vegetation established there. And it may not be necessary to put lawn mix and constantly mow the entire site, particularly the back of the site and around the stormwater basin. It might be best just to revert to some natural conditions with some other seed mixes other than constant maintaining lawn. And finally, the sidewalk. Glad to see you move the sidewalk and looking to attach that and got it out of the steep area. So, well, good to go.
Thanks, Carol. All right, this is on for a public hearing tonight, so I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And we can start. We have one person signed up in the meeting room today. Today is Stephen. Come on down to the.
Come on down.
Come on down. The price is right.
And actually, if you could stop sharing your screen for a moment. Thank you.
That mic so we can get you on the
Can you
record.
hear me?
Yep.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yep.
I apologize because I missed the January meeting somehow. I could have been here for that, but I missed it, obviously.
That's right. There's
I just happened to catch there that they're going to be putting up screening to the rail trail. What are they going to do for the two residential properties that are in front of them?
Good point.
Because I look out my back door in my kitchen, I'll be seeing half that building. My neighbor makes basically the same thing. That was the first question I had.
All right. I mean, yeah, the landscape plan shows there's a lot of trees and bushes. We'll have to take a look at it with the.
Yeah. So right now I can just give you a quick, I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't know if you wanted to go through all of your comments. So there's approximately 20 trees on that portion of the site, a mix of evergreen and deciduous.
On the rail trail side.
On
No,
on
yours.
the part of the property that's between the building and the residential properties.
Between the front of the building and your house, I'm assuming.
Is how many trees?
Approximately 20 at this point, based on the plan they've remitted, that they would be placing.
Oh, we're going to plant 20 trees.
Correct.
Oh,
They got a
okay.
group of,
Yes.
you're planning a group of six big trees right on the corner and then some additional ones in different areas.
There is a landscaping plan, and maybe one thing we could do between now and the next public hearing too is if you wanted to come in and look at it with us.
I'd be more than
we'd be
happy
happy
to.
to go
I
over it.
was online looking at the 194-page report.
Oh,
that's out
yeah.
there.
It's tough to see sometimes. Is there
That's-
any other comments you had?
Oh, yes. I heard Global saying they're not going to have a dumpster there. And I would really appreciate that if they did the same thing down here at the storage units. if they can't do that, and if they could move the storage unit to the south side of the building towards the city of Poughkeepsie.
You're talking about the refuse, like the
dump-
Yeah,
garbage
the
proposed.
dumpster
Yeah,
storage
yeah, sure.
enclosure that was on the
Dumpster enclosure.
outline. But that would be, I see garbage cans. I understand their point of view from going in storage. People dump everything and anything. I've been on Love Road cul-de-sac and we use the rail trail and it turns into a transfer station. The front of the exterior is going to have some glass windows in it, from what I could see on the pictures. The interior lighting, is that going to be tripped by motion, or is that going to be on 24 hours?
Yeah,
Specifically nighttime hours.
We'll look into addressing that to make sure that there's not light spillage coming
That's,
towards you.
they changed the lights on the storage units once before because they were so bright, they were focusing more out than they were down, and they eventually changed them for that. I thought 41,000 square foot footprint was big, but Guardian Storage is going to do bigger. What is the total height of the building? I'm confused on what heights are.
They're not
3
seeking-
stories.
I don't believe you guys are seeking a variance for height, right? Three
It's
stories.
37, about 38 feet.
38 feet tall. Actually.
3
Okay.
story, yeah.
Okay.
Any other last comments?
So that's the dumpster, the windows. I've seen there's no security fencing at all. Is that usual? I
That
mean,
is a good question. I may have included that actually in my own comments, so you're hired.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
If not, we'll be sure to find out or get some confirmation. And the applicant is still on the line too, so they can hear your comments as well and might even be able to respond to a number of those questions and comments right after you're, done.
Okay. Very good.
So that's a good point. Security is something that we do look at also from an emergency access standpoint as well, like the fire department being able to get into the site and also into the building.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid there's an emergency.
Well, that's the other curious thing is that it's a loopy driveway. I would think it would be more direct straight in. I don't know why they would curve it like that, but
Well, because of the slope, it's going down.
I didn't think it was that big a slope. But my backyard slope is worse than that. But anyway.
Yeah.
There's certain
So-
standards that have to be met for roads. Anyway,
That's the end of my questions.
all right, thanks for your comments.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Try to take them into account.
And of course, if you have additional questions, or even if you do hear the answers to your questions this evening, if you'd like to come in, we could always sit down and I can go over the plan sheet with you, or, I'm always here, so.
I
Just
missed
thought I'd-
somehow I missed January. I get the meeting
Absolutely, yeah.
notices, so I missed January.
And there'll be another opportunity since we'll be adjourning it.
Thank you.
I'll give you my copy of landscaping
thanks,
and lighting.
Eric.
You can have it. It's going to change, and if you want to see the larger one, you have to come into the
Okay.
office.
All right, does anyone else wish to comment on this application for store space?
Oh, that's just I heard you say, what did he say? So I was just commenting or confirming. That's actually a plan sheet of the landscaping. But of course, you can always come into town hall. I'd be more than happy to sit and go over the plans with you if you have additional questions.
I forgot one question.
You made it just in time. I was about to close.
All the structures on that property are going to be removed.
Yeah.
The house alongside my property, residential, and the garage behind is going to be removed.
In the old store, yeah, the old.
I
store.
assume the old store, that's
Yeah.
part of the footprint, but
And the,
why are those units being removed there? The residential? You don't know that, that's okay.
we can ask the applicant, but
Yeah,
it's just making room for their building, I guess.
Okay, sorry, thanks again.
That's right. Okay, question to the applicant, when do you think you'll be coming back again. I think for the April meeting, the deadline would be March 28th, I think.
Yep, I spoke with Kristen about that earlier this week. It's our intention to get it in to be on the April agenda.
Okay.
And I can briefly go through and provide some responses to that gentleman's comments if the board would like.
Okay, just wait 1 second then. I move we adjourn the public hearing to April 21st, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, yes, please respond to some of those comments.
Yeah, I'll do so briefly. The first one wants to know about a buffer. We certainly, we have proposed a decent amount of landscaping, but, there might be some more that we can do. We'll look into that. Maybe a small berm or something within the planting area just to create a little bit more of a screening in that area in there. I believe it's 32 Violet Ave is his residence. Just to provide a little bit more screening to the store itself. The dumpster location, we can certainly look into moving that, especially since we reduced the parking near the city line. There might be an opportunity to move the dumpster over there to get that away from his house as well. The lighting, I will certainly look into that. I'm not positive, about the lighting, if it's on 24/7, if it's motion censored. I know the store, there's not access to it 24/7, but that's certainly something we can provide a response to.
Just a reminder, our in the town, we like to stay under 3,000 temperature for the lighting.
3,000 K, okay.
For the LED.
Okay, and then in the fence comment, it is a fully secured building. There is no outdoor storage of any materials, so there isn't really a need for a security fence because it's a fully locked structure. You need a key code to get in, so there's really not a security issue from that standpoint. So, and also like Kristen had mentioned, fencing can be an issue from an emergency management perspective, having to have a Knox box and the like. And then just to confirm, yes, all structures will be removed on the property, including the existing house. It's actually not a separate property for the house, so it would need to be subdivided out. So I think it was just simpler for store space, not being a landlord to demolish that and just make it for their development.
All right. All right, thank you for answering those questions. We'll go around the board for comments now. Peter?
The first comment would be with regard to the architecture. I mean, this is a heavy industrial site. I mean, there isn't a lot really that you can do well, there may be some things that you can do to mitigate the architecture. One of the things I would suggest that you not do is use red panels. I mean, there are residential properties adjacent to this, and I don't think red panels on the side of the building are a good fit for that neighborhood. The other thing, as far as the landscaping is concerned, we had someone just make sir, when you look at this plan, there's a schedule on the upper left-hand corner, and there's a code there, and all those trees that you'll see on the site, you'll need a magnifying glass, but they match. They match. But there are a lot around your house. There are a lot of Doug firs that are being proposed, and it should provide some pretty substantial screening. That's all I have.
2 maple trees and a ladder going to come down too. Just for 1 maple tree. I'm sorry.
That's it for me.
All right, thanks, Peter. We go to Steve. Do you have anything?
No comment.
Ahmed? Rocco?
No comment.
And Nicole?
No comment.
I guess my comments are, I guess you mentioned the billboard. You can't do anything with it right now because of a lease. Do you know when the lease is up and when you could be able to do something?
I do not know that answer at hand. I know they found the answer out today, that the attorneys looked into it and they couldn't get out of it right now. Certainly between now and the next meeting, we'll try to have more of a definitive answer for you.
Okay.
I'm sure once they can remove it, they will. But at this point, I don't know exactly when that would be.
All right, great. That's my other, and I noticed, I just note the county made, quite a few comments as well from landscaping, lighting, et cetera. We already talked about the lighting. It's important that it's not just his house, but the new apartments across the street. We don't want any lights shining in anybody's windows.
Understood.
And appreciate trying to move the dumpster over to the south side. That'll be good. I guess that's it for now, and we'll see you back in April. Let's see.
I move the planning board defer further action on this application pending establishment of a lead agency, direct applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following on 14.
Second.
And at 15, all the comments we discussed tonight.
And 15, all the comments we discussed tonight.
I didn't see that on there.
Second.
I always did it, don't worry.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time.
And next up is Wiltsey Estates. Lot number 19. Amy, you out there somewhere?
Yes, I'm out here. Wiltsey Lot 19 is proposed to be subdivided to create 3 new parcels. There's a sewer easement through Lot 54 to serve Lot 19. In the event that the existing septic system that the house on Lot 19 is hooked up to enters a failure state, so then connection can be made to the sewer system. Lot 19 is greater than 4 acres. Lot 19C is greater than 2 acres. A and B are less than 1 acre. All are immediately proposed to be hooked up to the sewer with the exception of 19. We received comments from SHPO and the Farmland Board, and both are both stated there's no significant impact. And we're here to open the public hearing.
All right. Thanks, Amy. Start with Eric.
Sure. This project, I think it's the second time back after lead agency circulation. There were no objections to the board being lead agency. It's on for seeker review and a public hearing for a minimum for a 4-lot subdivision with a 5th lot for utility crossing. We found that the responses, there's been some progress, but there's still a lot of information and responses that are incomplete regarding information that was requested, and therefore, which are detailed in the staff recommendation, also in the comments from engineering and others. Therefore, we're recommending that the planning board discuss the application and defer action, keep the public hearing open. And in particular, the board might want to discuss an apparent conflict between the tree preservation area required by the previous plat for this property and the proposed lengthy sewer easement. And then that discussion would also then might or might not lead to a discussion of if the board wants to see some further comparison of the lengthy sewer easement that's proposed, including through the tree preservation area versus a shorter sewer easement. Those are our comments.
All right, thanks, Eric. Andy, from your standpoint, the sewer is an issue here.
Sewer is an issue. Yeah. We understand the desire to connect lot 19 to the sewer. What's a little problematic is the future, potential future connection. The town, we're looking for some, a method or a mechanism to notify the town when that happens, if it happens, so that, billing and inspections can take place when it does. And then we are also still looking for some more information on the potential encroachment on on the town's water tank property. So we'll need a little more information on that as well.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Sure.
All right, at this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone on the Zoom call, no one left in the room here, that wishes to talk about this project? Any comments on Wiltsey Estates?
You can raise your hand in Zoom. You can unmute yourself and speak up. Or-
Amy, when do you think you want to come back again? Time for the April meeting or submit for May?
May, probably.
All right, seeing no one commenting, I move we,
Excuse me. Are these, hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, are these new houses gonna be built on, oh, are these new houses that will
Yes.
be built?
just proposing a couple new houses here. You have to state your name and make the comment.
My name is Lisa Williams. I'm just curious. That's all. This is my first time I've ever been to a meeting.
Yep,
So
that's fine.
I just want to know, these are going to be new houses because there was two houses built previously. So this is going to be new houses on Edward
Yes.
Road.
There'd be another one on, what is it, Edwin, and what's the
Old Field Road.
Old Field Road.
Where on Old Field Road? Of course, next
I'll share
to-
my screen if. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Right now, there's a kind of a pasture there with cows at one point. And I think
Oh.
that's where a couple of the houses are. Two new lots there.
There's a lane off of Old Field Road. There's a lengthy driveway to an existing house, which is part of the parcel that's going to be subdivided. And that lot also, I believe, has frontage on Wiltsey Lane down at the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
Okay.
Amy, what's
Alright.
up with your screen? Is it, you're able to share it or no?
Well, I'm trying. New computer.
Is that the only question you had? Was where they are going to be?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, one facing Edwin Road and two facing Old Field Road. And Zerk said one. Houses where that pasture is now.
Next to the other house, I'm assuming.
Yes, I would assume.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Thank you.
Yep. No problem.
And Amy, that's not coming up?
Doesn't appear. If it comes up, you'll be able to see it. In the meantime, I move we adjourn the public hearing to May 19th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And we'll go around the board for comments. Nicole, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I know you still need to figure out the sewer situation, but I just wanted to reiterate something that the sewer department did say, is if you do that sewer connection to Edwin through the easement, that there should be a maintenance agreement between the homeowners to maintain the sewer. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Other than that, I don't have.
All right, Rocco?
Additional comments.
Ahmed?
No additional comment.
And Steve?
No additional comment.
And Peter? No additional. My question is I guess you were preferring the longer route for sewer, but it does pass through the tree preservation area as Eric has said, so that needs to be looked at. And so I would suggest you try to get with staff offline to try to work out some of these final details. Make sure you get these questions before you come back again, just to make sure.
Okay.
You're trying to clean everything up. So that's the extent of my comments.
I move the planning board defer further action on this application subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from the town departments and agencies. Said responses to be reviewed by the planning department as adequacy and completeness inclusive of but not limited to 1 through 10.
Second. Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right. Take care, Amy.
Be back.
Well, she's here for a little while.
Oh, she's got another one. Okay. All right, we got a couple of housekeeping items here. For Arlington Farms is the next project. I moved that the public hearing be adjourned to April 21st, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Stewart's Shops at 2245 South Road. I moved that the planning board adjourn the public hearing to April 21st, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. This time I moved to allow public comment on any other items on tonight's agenda. And we please ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and the board will consider these comments during the meeting, but will not necessarily respond to them directly.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on any additional plans on our agenda tonight?
Again, if you're on Zoom, you can unmute yourself or raise your hand. There's at least one person on a phone. You would use *6 to unmute yourself if you're on the phone.
Yes, this is Kathy West. I represent Parkway Construction Architecture for a Chuck E. Cheese remodel located at 1895 South Road in Poughkeepsie. I just wanted to see, I understood this was on the agenda. Has this been changed?
No, that's still on the agenda.
Yeah,
All right,
it'll be up
thank you.
later on.
Maybe
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
missed
we're
a little something. Thank you very much.
Now, we go through the public hearings, advertised public hearings first, and now we're just asking for additional comments from anybody on other projects,
All right, thank you.
including yours, if anyone has any. Scrolling through to look, I see Ally is on there. I don't know if you have any final comments on this approved project. All right. Seeing none at this time, I move we resume the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up is a reapproval of the Marist College Dyson Center addition. Who's representing that tonight?
It's on for reapproval, so the applicant is
okay.
not present.
Not bothered. Okay.
They,
Go ahead.
you know,
Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
Yep, sure. The application was approved back in April, conditionally approved by the planning board on April 30th, 2020. Plans did receive signature on September 8th, 2020. Due to the language in our town code, unfortunately, the project's time limit has run out. So there are no changes proposed with this reapproval. It is exactly the same project. We will require new plan signatures in order for the applicant to move ahead.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I believe the COVID helped delay this project, so. Go around the board for comments. Andy, do you have anything on this one?
I have no concerns. It's a straight reapproval. Nothing, no concerns.
Okay, great. Peter? Cole?
No.
Rocco?
Nothing.
Ahmed?
No.
Steve?
No comment.
Same here. It's no changes from the previous one. It looks like a good addition to their building. So, go ahead.
I move the planning board waive the public hearing for Marist Center addition site plan reapproval per town code 210-151.
Second.
Moved and seconded to waive the hearing. Called the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board hereby determine that the Marist College Dyson Center addition site plan reapproval would not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and that no environment impact statement will be required for reasons set forth in the attached resolution. Determination of non-significance negative declarations dated April 30th, 2020, now dated March 17th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded for seeker. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board determine that the Marist College Dyson Center addition site plan reapproval is consistent with the town of Poughkeepsie's approved local waterfront revitalization program.
Second.
Moved and seconded for LWRP. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board grant conditional site plan reapproval for Marist College Dyson Center addition site plan as depicted on the plan set stated March 23rd, 2020, and last revised before the submission on July 24th, 2020, and signed by the chairman on September 8th, 2020, subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness inclusive of not limited to the following 1 through 7.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional grant architectural review reapproval for the Marist College Dyson Center addition project as depicted on the plan set with last revision date before this submission of July 24th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I got a red rubber band for Marist. That's pretty good. Chief Road Manor is up next. Mobile Home Park. Who's on representing them?
Bill Polvell.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Okay. Ready for what? Give a quick overview of your plans. See what you.
Okay, I'm here tonight for Augustus Associates. They purchased the Sheep Manor Mobile Home Park about 2 years ago. Now that they've had time to evaluate the park, they've decided to submit a site plan application for improvement. So we're here tonight for the site plan application, as well as a resulting lot line realignment between the Sheep Manor Mobile Home Park and the Camelot Mobile Home Park adjacent to it. Both parks are on Sheep Road, behind the Poughkeepsie Galleria. What they're proposing to do is clean up the entrances. They want to make the north entrance a one-way in, and then redo the southerly entrance, which would be two-way traffic. And right now that comes in on an angle. They want to straighten that out. One of the big problems as far as traffic circulation is I think it's called Camelot Road within the Sheep Manor Park, which we're calling Road 2. Right now that's a dead end.
Yep.
What they're looking to do is connect that to Sheep Manor Road to provide better circulation. And in order to do that, we need to relocate 3 of the homes. Right now, the park has 68 units that are in place. The park is approved for 72 units. So with the relocating of the 3 units, we're also proposing to put back 4 additional units that were once in place. And they're being proposed in areas or lots that they were previously installed. See that on the site plan. With the improvements, they want to overlay the entire road system. We're at the southerly entrance as well as the connection that I just mentioned, we're going to need to do some additional work other than overlaying in order to make the grades work. So we're going to do some slight excavation and provide a full depth pavement in those areas. With the improvements, we would be installing some drainage. The site is very flat, so we're looking to go with roadside swales and pick up the drainage in those swales with some extra catch basins. With the plan right now, it's an unfinished dead end in the far back, to the east of the property. What we're proposing to do there is to have a turnaround, which will also provide additional parking for visitors and just general overflow parking. Right now, it's very difficult to get around in the park because everybody parks on the side of the road. So with that, the applicant is looking to put in driveways for each of the units. We're also proposing some overflow parking just as you turn in on the northerly entrance. Again, that's for overflow and visitor parking. This way we have some in the front of the park and some in the back of the park. We tried to spread that out.
Sounds good.
We're right now, the fencing is in pretty bad shape along Sheep Road. The fencing is in the Sheep Road right away. So with the proposed improvements, we're looking to remove the existing fence and replace it with a new 6-foot high stockade fence, which would be in the Sheep Manor property. We're proposing some landscaping at each of the entrances to improve the aesthetics. Right now, there's various encroachments between the Sheep Manor Mobile Home Park and the Camelot Mobile Home Park. So with the application, the site plan application, we're also proposing a lot line realignment. And what that would do is adjust the lot line between the two parks, which would allow some of the homes and sheds to be maintained and contained on the respective park.
All right. Thanks.
I think
thanks, Bill.
That pretty much covers the bulk of the improvements that we're looking to accomplish.
It looks pretty good. Kristen?
Okay, so this is the applicant's first appearance. It's on for a seeker review for an unlisted action, and staff is recommending that the planning board circulate its intent to be lead agency for the environmental review. It's also on for water consistency review, lot line revision review, special use permit review, and site plan review. I think Bill did a pretty good job, thorough job of going over the proposed changes for the parcel. So just to reiterate, there is a lot line revision involved where one parcel, the transfer of parcel will be about plus or minus 0.27 acres in the lot line revision. And there will be some circulation and maneuverability improvements. The property was originally approved for 72 homes. So they're looking to add in and basically capture that at this point, in addition to relocating several homes. I know our zoning administrator is pleased with the fence adjustment, as well as removing some of those sheds out of the property line or right of way. So at this point, we're just looking to clean up the plan set with a few more details. I know Andy and Carol Knapp actually took a look at this project as well. So staff prepared the adoption of a seeker lead agency intent resolution, as well as deferring action with comments pending establishment of lead agency at this meeting.
Thanks, Kristen. Andy?
Sure.
Comment?
Yeah, probably one of our biggest comments, first one of the early comments is the area disturbance. We're going to need to take a close look at that. It's as everybody knows, or most people know, if we go over an acre, it's going to require SWIP and speediest permit coverage. So, I'm sure Bill will look at that and see if there's anything he can do to keep that under the acre. We can look at that. And if he has any questions, we can work together on that one. So we also had questions about existing and proposed sewer and water service connections. We just kind of like to see where they are and how that's going to work with the new units. Looking for truck turning movements. And then for that southerly entrance, we are looking for site distance lines to the north and south, or east and west, I'm not sure which, to make sure that adequate distance is provided in those areas. And then finally, the parking area closest to Sheaf Road had a little bit of a concern. I know we're trying to resolve, going over the line with the improvements. I just want to make sure that the new improvement doesn't go over that line. And then also it's quite close to the actual, some of the spaces are quite close to the road. So we want to make sure that doesn't become a conflict. That's pretty much it.
Great, thanks, Andy. As you said, Carol had a couple comments as well. I don't believe she's on anymore.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, video just stopped working. So just a very few comments. While not requiring an aquatic resource permit, notice that the proposed extended parking is quite close to the regulated wetlands. So basically, again, not requiring permitting, but we're just recommending, I'm recommending that discharge ES8 should include some erosion protection, underlying fabric, riprap, whatever, just to protect that slope, because it is a significant slope between that area and the surrounding wetlands. And finally, any outlying soils at the end of that cul-de-sac, which is where the proposed parking is going to go, should be seeded, amended and seeded, just to give some natural growth in that area.
All right,
Just
thanks,
makes it
Carol.
more environmentally sound.
This is Kristen. Thank you, Carol. Bill, I just wanted to point out that we did just receive Carol's comments, so we will make sure that you do receive them. And this way you can wholly reference them in your response to comments on your next submission.
Thank you.
Yep, she wrote them on the Ides of March. Hope that's, let's see. Let's go around the board for comments on this one. Start with Steven.
No comment.
Ahmed?
No comments.
Rocco?
Nothing of this time.
Nicole?
Yeah, so quick question. With the replacement of that fence, that 6-foot stockade, you want to do that white?
Correct.
Because white's a nice color, especially for residential houses and stuff like that. But on that road, I don't know that white would be the greatest color, just because we would want it to be a little bit more natural. There's trees we would want it to blend into. So is it possible you could look at another color that would be more natural, maybe like a light brown, some type of tan, something like that, that would kind of
Most certainly.
okay, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
All right.
Change the color.
Yep.
At least
So,
look at it.
and then just one other thing I wanted to ask you about. Did you look at the fire department notes? They were talking about something about installation of some new fire hydrants.
That's something I'm gonna have to look into.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because ultimately, if they're asking for that, then there's a reason for it. Maybe some of the hydrants that are in there wouldn't reach a house if there was a fire. So that would be really important to look at and talk to them about. And that's all I had for tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, Peter?
This is going to be a big improvement to that park, and I'm sure the tenants are going to be very happy with it.
Yep. Yeah, it took my comments out of my mouth as well. This is great. A lot of different improvements on this, so I think that'll be great. And that's all I have right now.
I move the planning board to express intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize the planning department circulation of a notice of said intent dated March 17, 2022, a copy of the EAF and a copy of the application to the identified involved agencies.
Second. Moved and second for lead agency. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board for further action on this application pending establishment of lead agency and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 10.
Moved and seconded to defer. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Take care, Bill. Yep. Happy St. Patrick's.
You too.
And next up is Verne Avenue subdivision.
Hi again. This is Amy.
Yep. Welcome back.
Thank you. This is this is a subdivision in the town and a little bit of the village of Wappingers Falls.
Yep.
There's an existing house on, I think I actually can share my screen this time. There's an existing house on the parcels. It's actually bifurcated by the municipal line. We're proposing 6 new lots and a road. All the lots meet the exact minimum of what they can meet. The layout was not solidified. This has been in front of you, I think, probably about 2 years ago.
Yep.
The layout was not solidified at that point. I was unsure if there was a need for a right-of-way to the Marco John property in the rear, which if there is, I think that's going to make us lose a lot.
Unless you buy that property.
I think they've reached out. I don't know.
All right, go ahead with you.
They haven't had my client hasn't had luck getting in touch with the owner of that. That parcel is actually not landlocked. I guess technically it would be, but it's accessed through 2 individual parcels. I think it's 30-foot wide strip. But all 3 are owned by Marco John.
Yep.
So we're tying into Tri-Muni sewer for sewer and municipal water.
Okay.
I just wanted to come back in front of you and discuss it again because I know it's been a while since you've seen it.
I know there's some sewer water issues because it's town and village combined.
Right.
Kristen?
Yeah, so as was indicated, the last time the planning board heard from the applicant about this proposal was October 2020. But just for the record, I would like to just go through a little bit of project history in the sense that the project was heard on July 16th, 2020 for a pre-application discussion for a major subdivision. At that time, the applicant had been proposing a subdivision breakdown of 1 existing lot with 5 new residential lots. The application appeared again before the planning board October 15th, 2020. At that time, the applicant presented a new version of their proposed subdivision, which includes 1 existing residential lot with 6 new residential lots. The existing residential lot contains land found in both the town of Poughkeepsie and the village of Wappingers Falls. The planning board declared its intent to be lead agency at the October 15th, 2020 meeting and circulated a copy of that said intent. To date, no objections have been received. So the planning board is serving as the lead agency for the seeker review.
Okay.
And I do have a number of subdivision related comments documented as part of my review. But there are still a number of infrastructure related items that must be worked out. And I think that Amy is looking for some direction on behalf of her applicant as to the board's preference for this right of way into that northern property or not. At this point, it is, I mean, in order to move forward and factor in items such as the road that is essentially going to be dedicated to the town. It has to be built to town spec. There has to be an accommodation of stormwater. If we're going to require a right of way, and I mean, they need to plan and be able to go back to the drawing board and figure out their proposal going forward if those changes are required or that right of way changes is requested by the board. So with that, I would probably just pass it along to Andy and potentially our counsel, Lisa.
All right, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, we provided a number of comments, fairly detailed comments, tried to get, as much of it out of the way, as possible. Early, this being a residential, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty too much, but this being a residential subdivision, technically they require a SWIP, but they don't require permanent controls unless they're over 5 acres. However, we are asking them to do an analysis of the peak pre and post flow rates to make sure they're maintaining that, and we're allowed to do that. So chances are they are going to require a pond or some other method to control that flow. And then as far as the right of way, it's really just good practice to try to provide that for future development, especially with a fairly large parcel to the north that has not really been developed yet. So maybe there's a way that we can, well, I don't know what we can do to try to preserve that, that additional lot for the applicant, but we can certainly talk about it, but I think it would be a good idea to have it. And then finally, the utilities are a little complicated. There's actually village and town utilities in Delaverne. There's a water storage tank that's just up the road from the property on Delaverne in the town, but it's actually the village's water tank. So because the property is in the town, they would actually need to extend the water line to the property to be able to serve it. And then they need to coordinate with the village to get sewer service, as well as trying municipal to get a will serve letter for that. So there's quite a bit to be done. But yeah, that's it.
All right, thanks, Andy. And Carol, did you look this too?
Yeah, I looked at this a couple of years ago and just provided there was a habitat suitability study that was done, and there was some issues regarding bald eagle. The applicant's consultant stated it was likely Wappingers Lake, but we know there's the nesting site on Sheaf Road. So while it probably doesn't change the conclusions here, I think that needs to be revisited in order to be accurate in the record, including some correspondence with DEC.
All right, thanks, Carol. All right, we'll go around the board for comments at this point. Start with Peter.
I have a question for the town engineer regarding site distance here. Is there a statutory site distance for the town in terms of lineal feet?
The town does not have their own. The town has site distance requirements, but generally we would defer to the county requirements because they have more specific distance requirements based on speed. So we did not get that comment in our memo, but that will be in future comments.
Okay, it's something we're going to look into.
Yes,
we are proposing a grading easement to improve the site distance.
Okay, it's something we want to take a look at. I think
Yeah.
because of when you look at the radius of that turn, it's pretty severe.
Yeah.
Especially in relation to that driveway, to the entrance to that road. So it's something we're going to want to take a look at in the future, just so that you know. The other question I have is regarding the right of way. Since the Microgen family, which owns the property to the rear, also owns access to that property within two parcels, or two 30-foot wide parcels, why would we require a right of way to that property?
It's good practice. Town tries to minimize cul-de-sacs, especially short cul-de-sacs. It's just it's better for emergency access to be able to have multiple means of access to the properties, and it provides better traffic flow in general.
Is the right of way to the north, to the Microgen property? Is that what
Yes, and in the event that eventually that property will be brought forward for development, it would allow the road to be extended to serve that property and have multiple entrances.
Thanks.
Is the 30-foot access, sufficient if that was one of the accesses?
I mean, no, the existing access for the property.
That was my concern.
It would be. I mean, well, it depends on what they propose. If they're proposing, a residential development, right of way is typically 50 feet wide.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. All right, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a lot to reiterate what the fire department stated about the road in the cul-de-sac, that it must meet the New York State Fire Code requirements. And can you pull up your, can you pull up the parcel for a quick second? I wanted to look at something.
Is that a,
Okay.
do you want me to change? I can change the sheet if you need.
No, you can leave it there. No, there was a comment about doing some buffering on the western part of this project, but I'm just trying to figure out why that is. Is there a resident that butts up to that western area?
There is, yeah, it's a residential.
Okay.
There's a residence here. It's a single parcel.
What's the, I guess my question is like, when you put these houses up, there's gonna be a backyard, right? There's going to be trees. I was just wondering why the comment.
So you're gonna have a yard, I think that's 30 feet. And there's a pretty good vegetative cover there now, so clearing would be limited. And then if additional plantings are needed in that yard area, we'll work with that.
Yeah,
there's a specific code, there's specific code language that I had referenced in my write-up. So really, it's about the board using its discretion to establish an appropriate landscape and setback buffer. There is a minimum, I think it's 25 feet. I'm just skimming the language in here right now. But I think really what this is getting at, me citing this code language is, again, looking at the property sizes compared to what's proposed and what is potentially going to be required on site. Those lots that are being proposed are just meeting the minimum requirement for the acreage. So it's really was more about painting a larger picture for you. But I think, obviously there's an existing tree buffer, but if there was something that could be done to enhance that, or,
Okay.
I include it all up front.
All right, that's all I had in me. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, Rocco?
Nothing at this time.
Ahmed?
Nothing.
Steve?
Yeah, the cul-de-sac just looks like a challenge to begin with. And my question has to do
with the storm area that enters the two properties up top, given that the lots are that tight, are there any restrictions on how close that space can come to a proposed building?
The cul-de-sac right away, you mean?
The snow storage, that's,
Oh,
no, that was, yeah, that was a similar comment that I have, Sue. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
The snow storage shows right up to the
Right up to the front door of the
pretty
house, so,
much.
you know, even if your steps up to the house, it's covered by snow. So,
And my alternate question is, if I could just continue with that, was there any thought given to eliminating that back property and just leaving that buffer area to manage not only the cul-de-sac, but also the requirements for a storm area?
well, if we have to provide a right of way, we're going to lose that parcel, and it will be all snow storage and stormwater management, I'm sure.
Well, I'll note, I mean, that's a very good comment because, you know, chances are you're going to need a pond. You're going to need something to manage stormwater somehow.
Yeah.
So, and you don't really have anywhere to put that right now, maybe in the back of lot 3. I don't know. I'm just kind of scheming it right now, but I think you're going to need some room for that too. So
I mean, from a practical planning point of view, I just don't know how the lots that are proposed are going to work with the requirements that are outstanding. That's my staff level perspective of it. I don't know certainly how the planning board feels, because it, you know, that's that's sort of what we're here to discuss.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else, Steve?
No other comment.
Yeah, I had similar concerns with the snow storage. You know, I know you were asked to put snow storage on the map, and that's where you put it, but it kind of covers the whole front yard of both of those houses. And as Kristen said, it's very tight. I could see it working better as a total of a 6-lot subdivision, so you can extend that road into that access.
Yeah,
But
we're probably going to need the area for stormwater.
and as well as stormwater.
Mhm.
So I think that's what's going to wind up happening, and then that moves that could possibly eliminate a cul-de-sac once that if that property gets developed as well. But it moves the cul-de-sac for temporarily cul-de-sac at the end there versus that 7th house. Especially if, I guess, if the road has to be built, if you're trying to deed it to the town, and it has to meet town standards, make sure pavement's wide enough, and I think Kristen has mentioned here that encroaches upon the size of the lots to just barely making it.
Mhm.
Just FYI, I know if there was another subdivision, a little slightly larger than this one, I think it was 12 or 15 lots, where there was a proposed cul-de-sac development adjoining an adjacent residential property to the rear. And in that instance, there was a connection for potential future dedication identified on the plan. That was a part of the yards for the lot, but it could be, if the other lot were developed, there were rights to create a town road there. And similarly, the width of the cul-de-sac, there was a reversionary legal provision so that the yards of those houses on the side, if the road ever went through, would be restored to those lots.
Yeah, that would be. That's an interesting thought. Although if you're putting some stormwater practices back there too, you have to take all that into account. So you really haven't got a hold of, it sounds like you haven't talked to the lot owner to the north there.
Yeah, they haven't been able to get in touch.
Too much, so.
Can I ask?
So I don't know what his intended use is over time. That can weigh into it as well, but.
Yeah.
But it is a significant piece of land there that is kind of landlocked. I don't know, Lisa, if you can have any comments on our town code. You're not supposed to have any frontage. You're supposed to have frontage along a town road for.
So town law 280A says you have to have road frontage and that an easement doesn't isn't sufficient. But there is an opportunity to get a 280A variance if need be. But whether that would be granted, depending on the size of the parcel, you don't want, if it's a large parcel and a number of residences could go back there, you don't want a number of vehicles going over an easement. You really want them going over a town road. And the initial stem of this road is going to be dedicated to the town, so it would be a town road. So that would be the only town access for this parcel at this time.
Okay. Thanks. It's yeah.
And in fairness, I have not yet looked at, the other easements, or I can't offer any opinion on whether any of that would be satisfactory. I will do that before the applicant's next appearance. And maybe we can figure out, what needs to get done, what best practices would be for that parcel. And I mean, if you do, have it for snow storage and so on, then the question becomes who owns it, who maintains everything, and, how that works. And then if the road wants to go in later, it's a better planning solution, but it also brings up some other planning issues.
Mhm. And then the alternate road access to the current road access to that parcel is a small village lot and a small town lot. That's 30 feet wide, so.
Right.
It's that.
They're all owned by the same.
So, yeah, owned by the same person, but.
Right, so that in theory could be combined into one parcel.
Trying to develop that at some point in the future. I'm not sure that's sufficient for a town road width or 30 feet.
It's not.
So they're right. And there's not enough frontage to do it. So I think that's where we're at.
Amy, did you have a question before?
Yeah, actually, Eric, what you said about the yards in that other subdivision. So the right of way would go through and the yard width didn't have to be maintained. Did I hear that right?
I don't, I'd have to look back at the subdivision plat. We could do that offline if you'd like, or Kristen could look it up. I can give her the name of the subdivision and she could find it.
Okay.
I think there were larger lots where it didn't relate to setback issues.
But I mean, that's an interesting idea. If there is a cul-de-sac there now and then it gets developed and goes through, then you can revert that land back to those parcels on the side.
Yeah, I don't think it's the side yards. I think are not going to work though if we have to put a 50-foot right of way between the two houses. I don't know. I don't think it's. I'll play with it.
I guess take a look at it for the next meeting.
Yep.
I guess bottom line is, right, it sounds like 6 new house lots is not, doesn't seem like it's going to work out.
It's very tight.
Yeah, so.
Amy, did you make your application to Trimuni for the?
Yeah, I sent in a request for a will serve. I sent that in a couple weeks ago to Bobby Bozak. We've also sent a complete package to Trimuni, but I haven't gotten any response on that at all. And that's been in for a while, like over 2 months.
All right.
Okay.
Let's move on then.
Planning board before further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to the following 1 through 9.
Second. Does that include our comments tonight?
And 10, including our comments tonight.
Second again.
Moved and seconded, called the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, thanks, Amy.
Thanks. I'm up again.
Nope, you're up again. Okay. South Hills Commons. Yep. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you. So South Hills Commons has preliminary or conditional site plan approval, and this is really just we're just trying to cover ourselves. The trees need to be down by the end of this month, and it's potentially, the site plan is potentially not going to be signed in time. So we're just trying to be proactive.
All right. Kristen?
Can't keep up. Too many projects. Okay, so it's on for a tree removal permit review, and the applicant has gone ahead and provided us with a plan sheet identifying the 2.3 acre area of disturbance. This has been reviewed by the town engineer, and a resolution to grant the tree removal permit has been drafted and is there for your consideration, review, and discussion. I'll defer further comment to Andy Learn or Lisa Cobb as counsel.
You might want to just in terms of how close they are to the plan signature, though, there's been
sure.
a number of things.
As recent
Yeah.
as today, sure.
Yeah.
We did receive the recreation fee check yesterday afternoon. The applicant is also working towards signature. I think you're basically there for Department of Health, right?
I got that signed. I have that. I got that map yesterday.
Okay.
We have a letter. You have a letter on file also from the health
Yes,
department.
and also that the Department of Transportation, in anticipation of this tree removal permit, the applicant also worked with Department of Transportation to receive a memo or letter authorizing the work for this tree removal process, or felling process, I should say. And also they're incredibly close to the actual highway work permit sign off as well. I know that you just submitted another application, right?
To the highway. Yeah. Well, the tree felling.
Correct.
permit
Yeah.
application that got turned around in a day, but they've had the application for the highway work permit for a couple of weeks now. But we do have conditional approval from them also, which they don't like that term,
Oh,
but
conceptual approval, right?
Right.
I saw that. Okay, well, so I think
And
those are some of the highlights. And then that's really just about demonstrating the motivation of the applicant. I know there was some concern expressed about that, so I think that's
Yeah,
it.
I mean.
they paid the rec fees yesterday.
Oh yeah, that was the first thing I said.
And we've had some issues of, tree cutting in the past where the applicant decided to walk away. So it's good that you're moving toward.
Yep. I mean,
actively
I
moving
can speak
toward,
for my department. I had gone through the latest submission, which again, I think we need to touch base because Department of Health signature needs to be on the final plans, but I have updates that need to be made to the final plans. So we're going to have to sort that out because there are a couple of departments that are outstanding to submit comments. I have about 4 items that need to just be acknowledged and or addressed on the site plan sheet. But nothing insurmountable in like a week or so.
Okay. They're pretty much prepared to apply for a building permit though. I think their architectural drawings are done. So as soon as we can get the signatures on the plan, they're ready to go.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
For spring construction.
Yeah.
Andy, your comments?
I don't really have any. I mean, we prepared the cost estimate to make sure that the site would be cleaned up and if necessary, plant trees, if need be. I'm comfortable with this plan.
All right. And Lisa,
Right, so we've drafted the agreement. It's been signed off by the applicant's counsel. It's been submitted to the town board for potential approval on next Wednesday. So if that were to happen and the board were to grant approval tonight, they could start their tree cutting next Thursday and be done hopefully by the end of the month. Important to some of the planning board members' concerns, the applicant has agreed to a provision in the agreement that if they don't have the trees removed in 60 days, with the 60 days, the clock starting to run from the day of the first tree felling, then they will, the town, if need be, could go in and remove the trees, clean up the site and charge the applicant for it as a tag on the bond. But hopefully we won't need that. And there's certainly every indication that that won't be needed since they're ready for a building permit and it's in their incentive to get it done. But we were able to get that concession from the applicant, which is not something that we usually have in these tree undertakings. So
that's great. That tells us they are ready to go and hit the ground running. All right. Thanks, Lisa. Go around the board for comments. Steve?
No comment.
Ahmed?
No comments.
Rocco?
No comment.
Paul?
No comment.
Peter? I I'll chime in then since they didn't have comments. It sounds like we're doing good with the trees. I only had one question is if they're gonna, there's a couple large trees. I noticed a big 4 trunk tree that's right on the line of the condos, for example, and maybe another tree or 2 there. And is there a way they're gonna mark them to make sure they don't, when they go in cutting so many trees, that they don't cut the ones they're not supposed to?
We're gonna have the limit of disturbance staked out, which it goes close to the property line, but
there is a
they
couple,
can,
right?
yeah, they can either spray paint the trunk or put ribbon on it.
Yep, something, a piece of ribbon or something, so they don't.
Are they on the other parcel or they're on?
I think that big 4 trunk one I'm thinking is like your back, your northwest corner of your area of disturbance there, and it's too close for me to tell.
Okay.
Just looking at the survey stakes, it looks like it's on the condo parcel.
Okay.
But it's really very close, so.
Well, part of the pavement of the condo parcel is encroaching on our property, so that might make it even harder.
Okay, I don't know.
Like if you're lining it up with the pavement.
No, I was lining up with the survey stakes I was looking at.
Oh, okay. All right.
Before Andy, before the tree felling would begin anyway, we're going to be able to get out there and make sure that those limits of disturbance are clear to everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one thing. And I just wondered if the last thing there's a couple of last things. There's a couple of fallen dead trees. I think the applicant had taken down some trees in the back behind your area of disturbance, and they're still just kind of lying in the woods there. I don't know if they consider trying to clean that up a little.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
As part of the project. And lastly, I don't know what your project timeline is as far as construction for the, if you would consider leaving 20 or even 10 foot of trees along the Bob property line there. If you
yeah,
get, just so they're there for the summer while you're doing construction, and then you can go back and clear them in, when is it, November, I guess, if you're still, or unless you think-
we have a landscape easement and we can't clear within a certain distance, and then we have to replant, which they will probably do in the spring. That would be the right time to do it.
But I'm saying the area of disturbance, the line of disturbance goes right almost to their property line. In that
To the Bob property?
On the north side.
On the north side. On the west side, I'm not as concerned because there's
Gotcha.
you have to
Okay.
have a big buffer. But on the north side, I was wondering if you'd consider leaving a few feet, 10 feet of whatever's there, because there's not a lot of.
Yeah.
Until later on, it's just something to ask them if they would consider that, because unless their construction schedule won't allow it to happen versus clearing them all right now.
I will ask them about that. We have a water line going through there. We have to put a meter pit in, so that may be.
It may not be possible, but I just wanted you to consider it.
I'll discuss it with them for sure.
Right, that's it. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
I move the planning board approve site tree felling activity consistent with approved bat mitigation prior to an approved site plan, especially subject to the following. Tree felling activity may commence prior to March 31st, 2022, and thereafter is restricted between April 1st and October 1st. In accordance with DEC guidance. Prior to chairman's signature of an approved site plan, site clearing activity is restricted to tree felling only. Such activity shall not include relocation or removal of trees and bush and the use of heavy equipment or ground disturbance. Such tree felling activity shall be restricted to trees within the limit of disturbance shown on conditionally approved site plan. Prior to the commencement of any tree felling activity, a site restoration agreement shall be executed subject to town legal approval and a financial guarantee filed for such restoration in an amount to be approved by the town engineer and the director of municipal development and in form acceptable to the town attorney.
And add in, they're gonna look at the possibility of keeping a few. But that,
And possibly keeping a few trees.
on the, temporarily on the north side.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Amy.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Take care. Okay, next up, Raymond Avenue School Property Redevelopment. Is there anyone on representing that tonight? Jacob. Hang on.
Ready? We also have Kyle Bardwell here and Josh Karen from our contractor. Good evening.
Looks like you're moving along and some demolition there and so what do you have to say tonight?
Eric, do you want to lead off on the true request or do you want us to take over?
Why don't you, it's your proposal for, we grouped together the tree cutting request and the time extension as we discussed. So you could explain, it's probably appropriate for you to explain the proposal.
For that, I'm going to turn it over to somebody smarter than me. So Kyle, you.
Hey everyone, my name is Kyle Bardwell from LaBella Associates. I'm here on behalf of representing Jacob Rests. So in 2021, in April of 2021, we received subdivision and site plan conditional approval. Through the last year, we've been working with the town with additional agencies in order to complete all the conditions and receive site plan signature. First off, thank you everyone from the town who's been working with us to satisfy all these outstanding comments. We really appreciate your patience and working with us on it. At this time, we're really close to the home stretch. In the last month, we submitted our final plans for signature, including all the legal documents. We've had sign off from the DOH, just waiting for a final signature from the town. At that point, we're really hoping to clear out a final signature in the upcoming weeks. With that being said, it's possible that we would get that final signature before the start of April. However, we are concerned with the window of tree clearing, which ends March 31st. We were looking for a waiver to get those trees cut prior to March 31st. So today we're here seeking an extension of the approval for the subdivision and site plan with the conditions, as well as a tree permit to cut down trees associated with phase 1 of the project. We submitted a tree demolition plan, which I can share on my screen. Oh. Sorry about that. So on screen here is an existing conditions of the Arthur May School. And in red, it highlights the trees that are to be demoed for, in addition with the tree felling permit that we requested. These are all associated with the phase 1 improvements. And so from here, open it to any comments or questions.
All right, thank you. Eric?
Sure. Yeah, staff is in support, certainly of the time extension. And we agree that the plans are moving towards approval. It's unclear exactly when they'll be signed. We just got them and circulated them. As far as the tree felling waiver, it seems reasonable to staff to support that. I just got Jacob's request to cut just the branches and such, which is normally not allowed. I think the issue is one of ground disturbance to be avoided. So if the board's inclined to provide an exception, allow Jacob to go as proposed, you might consider revising number 2 to just eliminate relocation of or removal of trees or brush, and maybe replace it, and then perhaps add keep the use of the prohibition on heavy equipment except upon paved or previously compacted surfaces. And that way, that would avoid the use of heavy equipment that could create ground disturbance on unpaved or uncompacted surfaces. And that would, I think, would that allow you to do what you want to do, Jacob or Kyle?
Yeah, that would work, and I'll let Josh jump in if otherwise. But yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So number 2 would then read, such activity shall not include the use of heavy equipment except upon paved or previously compacted surfaces, nor any ground disturbance.
Yeah, you got that whole big U shape of pavement there
right
to work with, and around the school as well. All right, thanks, Eric. Andy, do you have anything on this?
No, I have nothing to add on this one.
Right. Let's go around the board for comments then. Peter?
Nope.
Nicole?
No.
Rocco?
No, no comment.
Romano?
No comment.
Myself, no comment, other than it's great to see this project moving along. I think there's a lot of anxious people in the neighborhood as well.
Thank you.
So,
I move the planning board approve site tree felling activity consistent with approved bat mitigation prior to an approved site plan, especially subject to the following. Tree felling activity may commence prior to March 31st, 2022, and thereafter is restricted between April 1st and October 1st in accordance with New York State DEC guidance. Prior to chairman's signature of approved site plan, site clearing activity is restricted to tree felling only. Such activity shall not use heavy equipment except on paved or impacted impervious surface or any ground disturbance. Such tree felling activity shall be restricted to the project area as shown on demolition plan C100 revised dated 2/14/22 and as proposed by La Bella Correspondence requesting a tree felling waiver dated March 4th, 2022.
Second.
moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0 with one recusal. Peter.
Mr. Chair, that's my last agenda item. So I will wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
We do have.
Thanks, Lisa. One more.
Carl, you also have
Yep. I was
an
about to-
additional resolution on the time
I move that the
extension.
planning board grant a 1-year, 365-day time extension of conditional final subdivision approval from October 12th, 2021 forward to October 12th, 2022, and a 180-day time extension of conditional site plan approval from April 15th, 2022 forward to October 12th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too, Jacob. Good luck with the project.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Chuck E. Cheese is up next. Architectural review. Let's see who's on representing Chuck E. Cheese.
Hi, my name is Kathy West. I'm representing CEC Entertainment on the line. I also have Carlos Alvarado for CEC Entertainment, and I also have CT Chang, our architect. We are here for application discussion and architectural approval for an existing freestanding building, a Chuck E. Cheese located at 1895 South Road. The exterior modifications will be new paint. We have replacement of the main entrance red doors with bronze doors. We have replacement of existing wall sconces and replacement of existing awnings with this eyebrow accent fixtures. We have a signage company to replace existing CEC logos. And we.
Excuse me, Kathy, do you have a way to share your screen to show what you're?
Oh, absolutely.
That would make it a little easier for people watching as well as us.
Let's do that. Is that showing a little better? Let me go a
There
little
we go.
smaller.
Perfect, that's good.
No, that's great. Oh,
Yep, that the first way you had it was good.
Oh, okay, here we are.
That's it.
Okay, excellent. This was, signage was approved and was remodeled back June 14, 2010. We are, CEC Entertainment rolled out a new color scheme they're doing throughout the US back in 2018, and this matches their new look. It's a very big, it's a nice, clean cut look, and we're hoping to bring it to Poughkeepsie.
All right, thanks. Kristen?
Yep, so this is relatively straightforward. The applicant is on for architectural review. This is a type 2 action, so there's no further environmental review required. The applicant will also have to appear before the zoning board for review. There is an existing sign package as it relates to Chuck E. Cheese that was very prescriptive and had a lot of foresight about certain signage that was allowed to be hung on the walls or the facade, I should say. And so for that reason, the applicant has been working with our zoning administrator. And again, we'll have to go to the zoning board accordingly for final review about the number of signs and size of signs and such. Otherwise, I've prepared a motion to grant the architectural as it's presented. And I have also documented any comments that might have come in from other departments. While not directly related to architectural, staff does get the opportunity to weigh in if there's concerns or issues otherwise on the site. But those sign comments are inherently included, and the trip to the ZBA are inherently included as part of the zoning department's comments.
Great.
That was a lot to say just for
Yeah.
architectural review, but I think you get the gist.
I did notice there's like a couple of close pine trees in the building, but that's not part of architecture.
I don't think they're looking to do anything with trees or site, no.
Okay,
No changes to site.
all right. Let's go around the board, see if anybody has any comments on the architecture. What's the material for it's just paint mostly, it looks like?
It's paint over the existing brick.
Yep. All right, Peter, anything?
That's a good-looking mouse.
Isn't it?
Does it reduce the noise level in the
Jeez.
inside?
Getting a little punchy, okay.
Steve?
No comment.
Ahmad?
Have you done any, the clients like the new look?
They do.
Yeah.
The rollout is doing phenomenal. We're doing about 120 remodels this year alone.
Wow. Rocco?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And Nicole?
Really quickly, I know this is just architectural review, but just to reiterate really quickly, water department, the backflow prevention needs to be tested and done, and certification needs to be submitted to the water department.
That's fine. We're up to code. I can tell you that right now. We're not doing any changes. We're just doing fixture. It's a modification of just like for like with water, with fixtures.
Yeah, no, I'm saying the backflow prevention is due for that building.
Okay, I'll make a note and make sure we get that.
Yep, otherwise the architecture looks great.
Great.
Yep, if this is your new look, I think that's good. I think the mouse on the building actually is a little bit smaller than the current one up there. So they have them on the sides of the building now. Okay. See what the ZBA says, though. That's not our purview directly. So I move that the planning board grant architectural approval as presented and direct the applicant to respond to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, including but not limited to the following 1 through 5.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, thanks for hanging in there.
Thank you, Kathy.
And,
Thank you so much.
And happy St.
Happy,
Patrick's Day.
yes. St. Patrick's Day.
What's left of it. And, move on from here. Just one last item we have is Rogers lot time extension. So I move that the planning board grant 1 60-day time extension per code 135-5 sub H, moving the deadline for filing with the Dutchess County Clerk from March 21st, 2022 forward to May 20th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Any other business that anyone wants to bring up?
No, I move that we terminate tonight's meeting.
Second.
We got multiple seconds. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Andy.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, Carol. Happy St. Patrick's.
Thanks. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you all.